Hello and welcome back everybody to, well, not so much the woodshed I suppose, but to Life Between the Cracks. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and comment and let me know how life is for yourselves. The piece I'm working on here has turned out to be one of my most epic pieces and came to me at a time in my life where I've had my back against the ropes. This past year in post-apocalypse Ireland has been a time of great struggle for a great many people, living in the aftermath and picking through the wreckage of our lives. An eternal homeless crisis, cost of living, etc. I feel sometimes like the veil over that ancient tradition of the dispossessed tribe of gods, the wandering magi, is lifted again for the world to see and ultimately ignore or not. It really is up to yourself. Anyway, I digress. I guess what I mean to say is that in a time where I desperately needed the indomitable Irish badass warrior spirit to come to my aid, that spirit did appear to me. And the spirit that I've chipped out of a billet of birch, or behe in Irish, which is the first tree of the Ogham calendar and celebrated at this time of year, when traditionally birch twigs were used to beat and sweep the spirits of the old year from the home and make way for the new year. So this piece of birch has had my back and fended off dark spirits from my home, which has been, over the course of the last 2 years, anywhere I could lay my head, my van, a friend's place, a tent, a hammock, any safe anchorage before facing into the storm again. Such are the realities of living and surviving in an inherently dysfunctional, emotional wasteland, a destructive, spiteful, shite pile of a society that is wholly contemptuous of the wild and free, the warrior poet. Anyway, with that being said, you'll all be delighted to hear that the fundamental socio-economics of General Ogre's Hound, and that other world of spirit just beyond that ever-tattered veil, offers longer-term growth, optimism and promise going forward, and as such I've chosen early retirement there and would highly recommend you do the same. At times I work out of the back of my van, sometimes at sea, at times on pilgrimage in warmer climes, but whatever the way of it, for much of the time my workshop is mostly a workshop of dreams, which I hope to share with you here, as challenging as that has been, and that's why it's taken so long to get back to you. But anyway, this is the next instalment of the great epic on Táin Bó Cuailgne, and it's been with me through thick and thin. Truly a spirit to rely on, and one you would want beside you in the trenches. That spirit and this carving is that of the Achilles of Iron Age Ireland, the greatest of all warriors. Weighing in at 156 pounds, the legendary, the notorious, Hound of Ulster, CúChulainn. As young boys growing up in the snot-nosed rough and tumble of the west of Ireland, we would all be familiar with the classic coming-of-age tale of Satanta, the boy hero of Ulster who so impressed the King Conahur MacNessa with his hurling prowess against his own Craib Rua Red Branch warriors that he was invited back to the Royal Dun to be celebrated as honoured guest. The late summer's evening had dragged into night, and the young hero was late returning to the Dun. By this late hour the Dun's night watch was unchained, roaming the ramparts, a ferocious half-wild war dog, the Foil Who, Hound of the King's blacksmith Cullen. Now the Irish wolf-dog of the day was no ordinary dog. The male dog, weighing up to 150 pounds and measuring 36 inches at the shoulder, was bred as a war dog. It is known that Irish wolfhounds of the late Iron Age were traded to the continent, where they were matched with Barbary lions in Roman amphitheatres and even in the Colosseum in Rome, so they say. Even up to the 17th century, the Irish wolfhound was trained to dismount armoured English knights from their heavy horse and drag them into the bog. They were so feared that Oliver Cromwell himself called Ireland Wolfland. And so, oblivious to the mortal danger lurking in the shadows, the young Satanta approached the Dun, chipping his sliotar ahead of him, as he trotted up to the great iron-bound oak doors of the Dun The savage war dog, baying and snarling, leaped from the ramparts upon him. As all 150 pounds of man-eating canine plummets towards him, Setanta, unshaken, takes breath, plants his back foot like a taproot. His heart rate steady, his young body a juxtaposition of tension and ease like cascading water frozen in the moment. He flicks his wrist, raising the slither from his come-on into weightlessness, and in that eternal second exhales and swings. He's come on like a Hadron super collider, the atoms of ash and slither fusing in an atomic second to explode like a nova star into the gaping maw of snarling death, shouting, "Me and you, motherfucker! Not today, dog! Away with you!" Within in the dun, the celebrations came to an abrupt end as the divine wind was sucked from the assembly hall at the birth of a star beyond the wall. The king and his blacksmith rushed out into the night, and with the whole assembly entrained to see the young Setanta standing over the lifeless body of the savage dog. Upon seeing his prized hound dead beneath his nephew's feet, Cooley the blacksmith cried out, "Wari huma humor, chechos nian and charta hulanish, ve huma hu charta Cooley. You killed me great dog. Who now will defend the forge of Ulster? You'll have to be my hound, the forge hound of Cooley." "Besides," he said, "you're my nephew. I raised that dog alongside you. He was your Christmas present, for God's sake. You could have just patted him on the head and said, 'It's only me, Fido, you half-witted loodlermon.' But, as they say, in battle, skill, precision and brute physical strength trump wit every time." Whatever the way of it, Setanta had come of age, and was now the Hound of Cooley, forge hound of Ulster, on CúChulainn, and in time he would become the greatest warrior the world had ever seen. Now, the way that CúChulainn came by his death is one of the most tragic and noble of stories in the Irish canon of myth. A story that I'll tell at a later time, as the story of the great epic Táin unfolds. But for now, the hero lives, and his journey has only just begun. He has, for instance, yet to find a girl to be his wife. In fact, he's yet to find a great many men's wives to be his girl, and so he must, by necessity, learn to fight first. As with all the young Ulster warriors of the time, CúChulainn would be sent along with his foster brother Ferdia Furbolg, the man of God of Connacht, to train in the martial arts with the great master. And who better to teach the channeling of a psychotic rage at a jaded husband than, well, a woman. That woman was the great ninja-like warrioress Scáthach, Queen of Shadows, and her fortress was on the Island of Shadows, the Isle of Skye, in the Shadowland of Scotland, known today as Scotland. For if Sun Tzu, the great and wise Chinese philosopher, is to be believed, subterfuge and shadow play is the very essence of war. The very quintessence of warfare, according to Sun Tzu's The Art of War, is to end a battle without fighting. But not so to the Celt. The wise philosophy of the Iron Age Celt states that the very essence of war is to start battles by fighting. Otherwise, what is the point at all? Under the wise tutelage of the Queen of Shadows, the boys of Ulster would be forged into warriors. There on the Isle of Skye they would learn the hero's call of victory, the blow and the counter-blow, on Liam Bradon, the salmon leap from one speeding chariot to another, on Liam Cat, the cat's leap onto the rim of an enemy's shield, on Rickcock Cron, the pine marten's run along the edge of a whetted blade, and finally to wield the mighty spear on Gay Bulga. Their love and devotion to their shadow queen, as was the age-old tradition, would be twisted, beaten, moulded and tempered into a lethal weapon. The strength and aggression of the Highlanders and their cousins, the Red Branch warriors of Ulster, was and is legendary. They were a force of nature, held back by a dam of discipline, awaiting direction. Once channeled, their devotion, skill, and the power of their limbs together could raise mountains, topple empires, bend the stubborn course of history to the will of whoever commanded them. Of these elements of natural fury, each of whom worth 100 ordinary soldiers, 2 stood alone as champions amongst champions, the greatest fighting men on earth, who for their power and prowess even the gods were wary. They were the forge-hound CúChulainn and his foster brother, the god-man Ferdia Furbolg. As brothers in arms, their bond was stronger than that of natural brothers. In single combat, no man was their equal. As individuals, they were singularly the match of the entire Red Branch. Together, nothing, neither god nor man nor beast in this world or the next, dared challenge them. Nothing stood in their way. Upon their return to Ulster, unbeknownst to the young warriors, fresh off the press, the dark clouds of war were gathering. The greatest of all toxic wars of aggression, control and dominance, between Maeve and her ex-husband Conahor, over assets, namely the Cooley, sire bull of Ulster, Conahor's most prized possession. The forge hound was about to become a god, and step into the annals of myth, take his place amongst the stars. But first, he needed to find himself a woman, and not just any woman, but a woman worthy of a superhero. And that woman was Emer, and CúChulainn's courtship of this woman made up the greater part of the entire tale of the Táin Bó Cuailgne, or the wooing of Emer, stands above all of the hero's many daring exploits. Why? Well, perhaps because love is the ultimate victory, and of all of the titles in the world, family is the hardest one of them all. So upon his return from the Shadowlands as the most eligible and handsome bachelor in all of Ireland, the men of Ireland deemed him too great a risk not to be married, and so they contrived to place before him all of the unmarried women of Ulster, along with their dowries. The forge hound wasn't all that impressed by any of the women he met, for he approached love as he did battle. He would only marry his equal, and so it was, as he was racing his chariot one sunny morning, that he spied Emer in a clearing in the woods near the royal fortress of Evan-Macha. Immediately he was smitten by the 6 traits of this young woman, which, as it happened, were the same 6 traits of his chariot horses. Listen, I didn't write this. Please put your comments below. Anyways, the 6 traits of a good horse: a firm step, courage, a long back, a graceful neck, a long leg, and a bold eye. She had them all. She was also very good at needlework, apparently. But again, comments below. Whatever the way of it, the young hero circles his chariot, and he says to her, "Is fiang croge in ar sachil in amshachoge, go me in achlat. Brave as the woman alone in the woods at a time of war. May I join you?" Emer replies, "Is ni scroga an lecha yara chosant ar vian birodul. See tamal lum magra. It is braver still the warrior that seeks the protection of a proud woman. Sit with me, my love." And so the hound leapt down to sit with her, to get a closer look at her needlework, I suppose. And so she says to him, "Cadé alor the yun far kruga? What is it that the brave man seeks?" "Lorgum tir milish, leg vi me mar mong," says the hound. "I seek a sweet country. I will lay my weapon there." "Ni hashtal lean ar sa chirsha, god you gamara she kied rias kied makria and macharamor morhevne," says Emer. "No man shall travel this country until he has killed 100 kings and 100 sons of kings upon the broad plain of Morhevne." "Beadas bria gut, you shall have your dowry," replies the hound, and he leaps back in his chariot again and thunders off towards Evan-Macha and a powerful destiny. Now, it's no secret that I am absolutely convinced that Conor McGregor is the reincarnation of the forge hound CúChulainn. For anyone with eyes to see demigods and goddesses walk amongst us, believe me, I've met them, and one day, God willing, I will meet the Forge Hound. Conor McGregor is the Forge Hound. Full stop. His Ulster Scottish name roughly translates as Hound, son of the Watcher of the Flock, or guard dog, if you will. And his wife Dee is literally a goddess. Don't believe me? Look up the Irish word for God. Google it. Of all the fortress/pubs in the world Conor McGregor might own, check it out. They do amazing food, proper whiskey, and the best pint of stout in Ireland. I've carved him here, in case there was any doubt, and hanging on his belt are the heads of his 3 title wins, Diaz, Aldo, and Alvarez. If you're still not convinced, look to the night sky, where all the heroes reside, and you'll see Orion with his hounds, and the 3 heads on his belt. Hound, you are a legend. Take your place in the pantheon of gods. And if it'll get this carving to where it belongs, though it might mean my untimely death, I challenge you to single combat, you bandy-legs bastard. On the Hill of Kings, any day of the week, I'll box the fucking lugs off you. So thanks for listening, folks. It's been nice knowing ye. Don't forget to like, comment and share. Please check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/Shanakee. Subscribe to keep food on the table, and check out the links to my GoFundMe campaign to return the heart to the mountain and save the world and make a movie in the new year. Take care all. More, gra more, agus lig an driocht a hála.